two podcasters enter, one leaves. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. This is your classic Macaw Podcast Universe episode. If you are with us this far, I think you've got to be hooked. You got to be hook, line, and sinker. We are in the Mad Max series, and we are on episode 3 of the Mad Max series, which is Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. 2 men enter, one man leaves. So, today we're going to do that. Why is the metronome on? The metronome's on. The metronome's on. I hate how this happens. Every time you open up a new Logic, it just goes to its settings of the beginning of having the click on.
Oh, brother.
So, anyway, how did we feel about this movie? Just a little off the cuff.
Second watch for me.
Third watch for me.
A lot better than the first one. I only really remembered the first half of the movie, so the second half was... I feel like I was watching it for the first time.
Mm-hmm. I always forget what happens in the second half on this movie.
It is... I think that it is a nice bridge between the previous movies and the fourth movie. Because the fourth movie, you could argue, is just as insane as this one. But it's not as insane because of this one.
Okay. I think it's way more insane.
But do you know what I mean? Like, how it's... I don't know. I just think, like, this one's so... All of them are heavily stylized, but this one is even more heavily stylized based on costume and set design. And the fourth one is way more as well. But I don't think it... To me, it's not as drastic because this third one's so weird.
Okay.
That's how I look at it.
That's a good take. Yeah. I was thinking about this. I think what makes the Mad Max series great, it's two things.
You got Mel.
Stunts and cars.
And Mel.
And world building.
Oh, yeah.
Because we proved that it's not just Mel, because Tom Hardy took up the mantle.
I'm just joking.
But no, that's a good point, because he really does a great job in all 3 movies. Like, he's just fantastic. But, so I think in the first 2 movies, you have a solid amount of world building, and then you have amazing stunts, but I think the stunts are what, like, make those 2 movies stand out more.
Yeah.
And I think this movie does less in the stunts and action part of it and doubles down on world building.
Yeah.
And I think it doesn't work as much, but it is cool.
Yeah.
It holds up a lot better than I thought.
It's still... I wasn't bored at any point. It was still all interesting, but yeah, I watch a Mad Max movie for the stunts. Not as much for the story and all that.
Yeah, but it does get into some interesting things that we'll discuss.
But like I said, it wasn't boring.
No. But yeah, I think those are the 2 great things, and it seems like the first movie, it's just kind of the story's a vehicle for how to have a cool chases and stunts.
Yeah.
And then the second movie is like, I think it's the perfect balance of world to stunt.
Okay.
And same with the fourth movie. And then this one does more world building, less stunts, which makes it not as interesting, I think. But it is cool that we have the Thunderdome scene, which is a different kind of stunt choreography than in any other part of the series.
Yes, and it's so cool.
But we'll get there.
I forgot to look up. Oh, never mind. Can I go first?
Yeah, hit it.
So, one of the people that you have on the cover of this movie with Mel is Tina Turner, who is a very famous singer from the 80s, even a little bit before that.
Maybe even the 70s.
Yes. And this is one of her first acting credits in her acting career. The only other one that I really found that wasn't on IMDb that wasn't a music credit was Last Action Hero.
She's in Last Action Hero.
She's the mayor.
She's the mayor in the Last Action Hero. I don't remember her in that movie.
I still haven't. Have I seen that movie fully?
I don't know if you've seen it fully.
I've seen most of it.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't know.
It's a great movie. It's one of those movies that, for you listener at home, it came out and people generally hated it. And right now, currently, people are starting to come around on the movie, and it's starting to get a cult following now.
Yeah.
But it's kind of fun because my dad always liked that movie, and we used to watch it a lot, so I've always been a fan of the movie.
Brownie points for you.
I know, it feels good.
Yeah, so she's in that movie.
Cool.
Oddly, and it just seems very odd because this movie's very odd.
Yeah.
This is one of the first acting things she did.
That's weird.
Weird but cool, because she was cool.
Well, can we talk about her performance at all, or should we wait for it?
Let's wait.
Okay.
So this movie came out in 1985, right? Yes, 1985.
Yeah, July 10th, 1985.
So the early part of her career, it took place like with her first husband, Ike Turner, and they got a divorce and also separated professionally. And it was a really, really, really hard thing for her. I didn't read too much deeply into it, but 1993 was when she launched a very successful solo career.
83, you mean?
83,
okay.
Sorry, 1983. Very, like, right before this movie. She launches a solo career that, like, it was just a huge comeback for her. And she won 12 Grammy Awards. And I read that when she went on her 50th anniversary tour, I didn't see the year for it. It's one of the highest selling ticketed shows ever, this tour that she did.
Wow.
So what a comeback for her.
Yeah.
Lives in Switzerland.
That's cool.
So
way to go. Was she born in Switzerland, or she just lives
No, she's
there
born
now?
in Tennessee.
Okay.
But
cool.
like on Wikipedia, it says American Swiss singer-songwriter. So I wonder if one of her parents are Swiss.
Or maybe she just has citizenship in
or
Switzerland.
she might have citizenship.
The DC, the dual citizenship.
Yeah. So then I also looked up the production designer, because the production design of this movie is very good.
Yeah.
And I noticed the name just kind of looked familiar to me. So the production designer is Graham Grace Walker. Grace being in quotes as the nickname.
Okay.
So he did this movie, but other notable movies that he's done a lot of horror movies.
Oh,
which
okay.
I find interesting. He did The Island of Dr. Moreau. I think it's Moreau.
Okay.
Val Kilmer. In that
Okay.
movie. 1996. Me neither. Good book, though. Gothica, which is a thriller movie with Halle Berry.
Okay.
Have you seen that movie?
No, never heard of it.
Oh, I mean, I'm assuming that the scores aren't super high, but at the time it was kind of popular. And then he did House of Wax, which I'm assuming you haven't seen.
Nope.
But the movie was in 2005 and stars Paris Hilton.
What?
And then stars this other person that when I read the name, I was like, where has this guy been? Chad Michael Murphy.
Where has
he been? He's in Cinderella Story with Hilary Duff. He's
Chad
in
Michael Murphy.
He's in.
I have no
is he
idea
in One
who this
Tree Hill?
person
Let me
is.
double check really quick.
Chad.
He was just in so much.
Oh, Murray.
Oh, Murray. Yeah, I said Murphy. He's in One Tree Hill. Freaky Friday. Yeah, he's in Freaky Friday. Where has he been?
I feel like I've never seen this person before.
He's still in TV shows. That's good. He was just like a big part of my teenage years.
He in Marvel ABC series Agent Carter.
Well, there you go. That's good to know that he's still getting jobs. And then he did Ninja Assassin in 2009, which has terrible scores. A really cool poster for a movie. And I remember Megan.
This is the set designer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Megan Higday and I rented this movie specifically because the trailer promised a ton of gore.
Oh, I remember this movie.
Yeah.
I never saw it, but I
gosh.
remember Shane was like, oh, it sucked so bad. But
we loved it because it was so gory. But I have not seen it since I was a teenager, and I am positive that I would hate it.
Yeah.
It's like 300 style gore.
Yeah.
Where none of it's real.
No, yeah.
But it was fun.
Yeah.
And then he did the Collection, which is a horror movie that I've seen that I think Veronica, if she ever listens to this, my sister, has also seen.
Okay.
So she would be like, oh, okay. Anyway, then you have the guy who played the Master. So you have Master Blaster, which are two people basically playing one character, but it's a little guy and a big guy, and the little guy is like on the big guy.
Yeah.
So the Master
And they run the underworld.
Yes.
With all the pigs.
And the Master is Angelo Rosito. He has been acting since 1927.
The Master is?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
1927?
He is in so many, like, this is Mad Max is like the only thing I recognized that he did. However, he was in The Fugitive, the TV show.
Okay.
And he was in Man from U.N.C.L.E., the TV show.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, like, so many acting credits.
Yeah.
And then the guy who played Blaster only has 4 acting credits, this being the last one.
Okay. And was it a different person than the kid that's revealed?
I couldn't tell.
Oh,
I don't know.
Because I'm
assuming it was.
In the movie, there's the scene, you see the Blaster, and he's this huge guy, and then when Mad Max knocks his helmet off, you see that it's a kid, but the way they shot it, it looks like they just put a kid in a big suit.
I think that's what it was.
So anyway.
And then, who's the last one? Oh, then I just looked in. What's the thing about these movies is even though this is the third one and it's a pretty successful franchise, most of the actors don't even have pictures on IMDb, meaning that this is really the only thing they've ever done. So, like, I looked up the girl from that, like, tribe.
Yeah.
And this is only her second acting credit ever, and, like, that's, like, it.
Interesting.
Really. She's, like,
she
not
was very
really
good.
She was. I think she's in a couple things after, but, like, nothing of note.
Okay. Do you know what Mel was doing before this movie?
Oh, I didn't look at that.
You didn't look at that?
No, we went over him.
I know. I'm just curious where he's at in his career right now.
I can look it up right now.
Okay. I can take over. Is that your last? Or do you have
that's
some
my
more?
last.
Okay. So just butt in when Mel gets there. So this is Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. This is the third of the series. It comes out July 10th, 1985. And the budget of this movie, I know you're looking, but pay attention to this. The budget is $10 million.
Wow. That's it?
Yeah, and box office is $36,230,219 in the U.S. and $4,272,802 in Australia.
Whoa!
So that's where
only
that's
in
at.
Australia.
The 4 million number was Australia. The 36 million was America.
That's just a lot for one country.
Yeah, but I mean the U.S. knocked him out of the water.
He did Lethal Weapon. Lethal Weapon's his next movie after this in 1987.
So the Lethal Weapon starts after this.
Yeah, and before that are movies that I've never heard of.
Can you hit me with like just whatever was right before it?
Mrs. Soulful.
Okay.
It looks boring.
Okay. That's pretty cool. So he goes from one action franchise to the next.
Yeah.
Love Lethal Weapon. Big Lethal Weapon guy. Okay. This movie, once again, is directed by George Miller, but it's also directed by George Ogilvy, who mostly does a bunch of TV movies I've never heard of. And the reason for that is Miller... So do you remember his producing partner, Byron Kennedy?
Yeah.
They made the first 2 movies together. They're good friends.
And he dedicated the movie to him.
Yes.
He died.
He died. And Byron Kennedy died while scouting locations for the movie in a helicopter crash in 83.
What?
Yes. So this caused Miller to be hesitant to do the movie because he was going through all the grief of it. But he did come to the conclusion of, like, let's just do it so we can get over the shock and the grief and kind of process it through making the movie.
Okay.
But that was part of the reason why he had a assistant director. I'm doing a bit of guessing here because let me see if I can find the note here. I guess I didn't make that note. But I remember reading that he... here it is. A quote from him, Thunderdome, I had a very hard time on that because Byron Kennedy was killed in a helicopter accident just before, and we were doing 2 miniseries. I was very... ellipses. I had a lot on my plate. I asked my friend George Ogilvy, who was working on the miniseries, could you come and help me? But I don't remember the experience because I was doing it to just, I was grieving. So when asked about the movie, I believe that was from an interview during his promotional stint of Fury Road, so he just doesn't really remember directing the movie that much.
Oh, that's sad.
So, I remember going into this movie for this third time, since I had remembered not really liking it as much the last time I had watched the movie, still enjoying it to an extent, but not like loving it. I remember thinking, oh, I get it, like his friend died, so they did a pretty bad job.
Yeah.
Because his friend died. Watching it again, I'm like, actually, it works it's a pretty good movie. So going through all that grief and stuff, he still managed to make a good movie.
Mm-hmm. This movie, like the other ones, just goes.
Yeah, I mean, there are some definite changes I'd make to the movie, but which we'll get to. But anyway, so that's kind of the directing chair. I thought that's kind of interesting. The music is... This is the first time it's not by Brian May. Not the Queen Brian May, but the Australian Brian May. And it's by Maurice Jarre, who did Lawrence of Arabia and Dr. Zhivago, and some others. Cinematography...
To Dr. Zhivago.
It's Dean Semler is back again. Produced by Kennedy Miller Productions. Distributed by Warner Brothers. And then I got a big note here. I'm just going to quote this. This is taken from Wikipedia. Terry Hayes, who co-wrote the screenplays of Mad Max 2 and Beyond Thunderdome with Miller, started talking about mythology and how where people are short on knowledge. They tend to be very big on belief. In other words, they take a few fragments of knowledge, and if you take, like the Aboriginal tribes of Australia, they just take simple empirical information and using those little bits of the jigsaw construct very elaborate mythological beliefs, which explain the whole universe. Terry was saying if you had a tribe of kids after the apocalypse who had only a few fragments of the knowledge, they would construct a mythological belief as to what was before and what would happen if Max or someone like that. What would happen if Max or someone like that's just the end of that quote. But I don't know what was going on there. But that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's so the movie from doing research and watching it, a lot of the movie is about like mythology, myth, and then power structures.
Yeah.
And how society functions. So that's cool. Mm-hmm. We'll take that into our thoughts as we go along. They imagined Tina Turner like other leaders who were good, like started out good, but then they cling to their power, and so they don't allow change.
Yeah.
And I saw that George Miller was saying how like he could almost imagine he didn't express interest in making this movie, but he almost imagines like there is a Tina Turner story of her creating Bartertown where she is like a Mad Max type hero, but then she later like is her morality is kind of changed because she wants to hold on to that power.
I like that tiny little anecdote that she gave in the movie where she was like, I was no one before everything that happened, but now it's my time to be someone.
Yeah, now I'm someone.
Yeah.
And that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And then George Miller carries that over to he explains that if Max were to stay with the children, then he would become a tyrant in that same way.
Oh,
because at the end of the movie, he lets the kids go and stuff like that.
Interesting.
But so there's a lot of the power structure, which knowing that before the movie was kind of nice for me because I was watching for it.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you caught that stuff, but I'll be interested to see what you think about it. Those are my notes, and this is the Macabre Podcast Universe. Cue the intro music. That's our long intro.
Oh, what?
No, I'm kidding. He probably already played the intro music.
You can play it again if you feel like it. But play it like over our talking.
Yeah. By the way, I saw Anthony yesterday, of course, at the coffee shop. And for you listener, a little behind the scenes, this is our 9th episode, and this week we finally finished the cover, which is the superhero Mike, which Jordan drew, which is very cool.
And Micah did the font.
I did the graphic element of it. Please don't hire me because it's such a headache, and I'm very bad at it.
And don't assume that I can do graphic art, because I can't. That's why Micah does it.
But she does do the drawing, and she is available for hire. But all of that to say, we have our release date finally. And then...
Do you guys want to know what it is?
Anthony, but he also said that he can send us the song, but he kind of just... The intro song, because it's done, but he kind of wants to just premiere it. And I was like, just put it on the episode. I trust you. So, you, the listener, you've heard it. This will be the 9th time you've heard the intro music. And just imagine that Jordan and I have not heard it yet. We don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know, and it's killing me.
And we probably won't know, because we're still going to record a few. Like, we have a release date in mind, but it's about 2 or 3 weeks away from this date now. So we'll probably have like 3 or 4 more episodes done by then.
Yeah.
In which case, we still will not have heard the intro music. So anyway, Mad Max Thunderdome. Let's get into it. Let me pull up my note from watching the movie.
So I have a question right off the bat that I was always unclear about, and I feel like I might have just missed it. So at the beginning of the movie, Max is the one driving that caravan of camels.
With the camels,
with the truck, like with the car.
Yeah.
And the plane, who was Bruce Spence, like flies over him and knocks him off. That was him, right?
Yeah.
And then he loses his... Like, why did that happen? I'm so confused. Because then Mel Gibson gets to Bartertown and he's like, I want my stuff back. And it's like, did someone steal it? Or...
Yeah, Bruce Spence stole it.
But he never received it.
Yeah, his son was on the ground and he jumped into the... No.
So what did they do?
No,
did they,
no. Remember him and his... So Bruce Spence is in the second movie.
The gyro captain.
And in this movie, he's a new character, Jebediah.
Was he a new character?
He's a new character, Jedediah. He's Jedediah. He has a son, and they are flying a plane. Remember, he knocks Mad Max off, jumps onto the cart, steals it, and his son keeps flying the plane.
Okay.
And then Mad Max chases the cart on foot, but he falls behind. But he follows the path, which leads him to Bartertown.
And so by the time he gets there, did the Jedediah just sell it or something?
Yeah, he sold it for... like parts or whatever he needed.
Why is he a different character?
Well, here's the thing. I think you could argue that he's the same character, but when they meet eye to eye later in the movie, there's no recognition at all.
I thought that there was recognition.
I did not see any recognition.
Oh.
Did you really think
maybe
you
that's
saw
just because I
recognition?
know who they are.
I don't see... because he just sees him.
But he was like this, you! And he had that look on his face.
I thought he was just like... He knew he's the one who stole it. Oh, when
how could
he
he
finds
have
him at
seen
the
him?
end?
Yeah, how could he have seen him? If he just, like, flew over him and knocked him out of his car. How can you see someone when that happens?
Well, I thought that... So we're jumping around. This is a very strange movie, so if you haven't heard that, this is going to be a very odd podcast.
We haven't gotten to Thunderdome yet.
But, so if I remember, at the end of the movie, when they sneak into Jedediah's underground location, he just points at him and he's like, "You gotta help us." Does he say?
No,
you
but he
stole
says
my
it
stuff?
like you. To me, it was like it's you.
Yeah,
That's
I feel
what it
like he
seemed
just.
like.
Okay, I think
Mel, can you be more clear in your acting?
I guess, but what I was gonna say is, I think that since he is a new character, at least to me, my reading, this again furthers my point that these are like mythological figures that are traversing the Australian desert.
Okay, let's just go with that.
Because I remember at first, when the first two times I saw that movie, I was like, that's so weird because it seems like they recast him and they don't address the fact that it's the same person.
Yeah.
But now, getting into this idea that Mad Max is just like a figure that is trying to survive the wasteland and helps people, but for usually selfish motivations that turn out to be empirically good usually. I think that the gyro captain and Jedediah are almost like kind of like misfits.
Yeah.
Like all not so much in this movie, but in Road Warrior, he's like a jester almost that like lives in the Australian wasteland and like also like whether he means to or not winds up helping people. So I think he's just another like mythological character as well.
Okay.
Which if they ever make a Mad Max 5, they got to cast Bruce Spence in it. He has to be in the movie, and I think he should be driving a
helicopter,
or something. And I think people would freak out if that happened.
I think so too.
It would be so cool. Before the movie starts, though, there is a song. So these are the parts of the movie that don't work.
That age the movie.
That age the movie.
Yeah.
There's a song at the beginning sung by Tina Turner, and it is like it has lyrics, and it's like a pop 80s electro synthy saxophone song.
Those drums that are the same in like every 80s song.
With all the reverb and stuff. And it's a little bit jarring after just watching Road Warrior because you have these very like silent, intense scores and stuff. Not silent, but they...
What I would like argue with this score, because it is a little bit more, I feel like full than the other ones, is because society is rebuilding. Because in the second movie, it was just like little tribes of people trying to hold on to civilization. But this movie is like there is a civilization.
Yeah.
And it's Bartertown.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that read.
Kind of ages it, but it does some of the like that song and then some other songs in the soundtrack definitely age the movie.
Yeah, and I think they break a little bit of the cohesion of the series as a whole.
Yeah.
But so that's a little jarring. I love world building wise. So then after Max's cart is taken away, he arrives at Bartertown, which is run by Tina Turner. Her name's Auntie something, but they call her Auntie for the most part. Auntie Entity. That's cool.
I think they call her Auntie though.
They call her Auntie, yeah. Auntie. That's pretty good, Australia.
Yeah.
Auntie. And so when he walks in, though, there's all these people, and there's a lot of selling, and he sees his camels up for sale. He can't get them.
Right.
They're like,
oh, man, being sold by that super cool guy who we couldn't find on IMDb.
Oh, you couldn't find him?
Well, I mean, like, I couldn't see a picture or anything. You know, I couldn't find him.
He's like the standout.
He's so cool. He's
like this warlocky character wearing like a purplish black robe, and he has a staff.
But it has huge shoulder padding. Looks just so cool and like regal, and it's like he'd
be a great cosplay.
Oh yeah, he is like embodying the like mysticism.
Yeah,
he's so cool.
And he's trying to sell the camels.
If the movie was a little bit longer and it showed that there was some kind of religion going on, that guy would be the forefront of that religion.
Oh yeah,
he's cool.
He is very cool. But when Max arrives, do you remember there's a guy selling clean water?
Yeah,
and he's like, "Clean water, get you clean water."
And he like scans the water.
And Max pulls out a Geiger counter, and he sees that the water that counts like
Like the purities or the impurities?
No, it like counts atomic.
What?
Like impurities.
Oh.
So I don't know how to explain. Oh, it measures radioactivity.
Oh, okay.
So he wipes it over the water, and it's like it's making all the sounds that you don't want to hear. And the guy kind of just walks away, and Max just gives him a look. And that is a great example of good world building, because they don't have to tell us that there was an atomic war or anything like that. But that alerts us to the fact that the war that happened before 2 had some atomic...
nuclear warfare.
Nuclear things going on. And it just adds some texture. And I love all of that stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
And all the characters are wearing cool costumes in this movie. But basically, Max says that he arrives... He has to give up all his weapons, which there's that scene where he's just dropping weapon after weapon after weapon after weapon. And he's like, I want to get my stuff back. I'll give you my services for 24 hours.
Right.
And so they send him up to Auntie. And when he's up there, there's a guy playing a saxophone. And at first... And
you're like rolling your eyes. You're like, oh, this is more of an 80s... thing, and then you see that there's an actual person playing a saxophone. You're like,
okay.
Oh, okay.
It's
that's diegetic,
cool. as Sean Muir has pointed out to me what that means. There's diegetic music, which means the characters in the story are also hearing it, and then non-diegetic, which means only we hear it, which would be like the score or something like that. But that's pretty interesting and cool. We already talked about Tina Turner talking about
basically,
how she's a nobody.
Tina Turner puts him to a test. They try and kill him right on the spot up there, and he wins the fight. So they're like, okay, you passed the audition. You're the first one to pass. This is what we need you to do. So what they need him to do is what is running Bartertown is methane, and how they're getting the methane is through pig poop. You heard that correctly. Pig poop.
Which they have. So they see there's an underworld.
Yeah.
Or Undertown.
Underworld.
I thought it's Undertown.
Underworld.
And it's run by Master Blaster. And Tina Turner's explaining how Master Blaster has like gotten too power hungry. And
he's like, I run Bartertown because I'm the one fueling everything with the methane.
Yeah, and there is this great scene where they're like, what's running it? And they're like, pig shit. And then he's like, Max is like, bullshit, and he goes, no, pig shit. And I love that. That's
pretty good. But Underworld is so filthy looking that you vicariously smell Underworld as you're looking at it. There are like vats of poop, and there are just like like seemingly hundreds of pigs down. I mean, I hope that it didn't take him very long to shoot all of that stuff, because like I feel bad for the pigs.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But it's disgusting, and people are walking amongst the pigs, shoveling their poop. And another world building thing that is so cool. So Max is working down there to create intel, and he meets a guy who is chained around the neck. Yeah. And he's like, what are you doing here? Or I think that guy asked him, like, what did you do to get here? And then Max learns that this guy is serving a life sentence because he tried killing a pig for food for his family. And the guy is like crazy. And he's like smiling. He's like, oh, it doesn't matter. Life is only 2 to 3 years. Because the conditions are so terrible down there. Because he doesn't leave that. I mean, he leaves to go watch Thunderdome. But like, that's his home. Is shoveling pig poop, and he's chained around the neck, and it's like it's almost as if smelling all of this and being in all of this is like loosened a few bolts in his head, and he's like, I'll die soon. That's okay.
Yeah.
That guy's cool. I like that character a lot.
Yeah, he's cool. He reminds me of well, I don't remember his name, and it's
what
I don't remember. He's the guy who voices K2SO. And we've had this conversation like 4 times in our relationship where we try and figure out
in
who
Rogue
it is.
One.
Yeah.
He's so cool.
Anyway.
I bet it's Bruce Spence. I'm just kidding.
So then finally, we see Mad Max's car, and Max challenges Master, not Blast, or he challenges Blaster, not Master, because Master rides the Blaster, to a duel in Thunderdome.
Alan Tudyk.
Yeah.
Tudyk.
That guy reminds me of Alan Tudyk. Like, if the movie was made now, they would have cast Alan Tudyk.
That's right.
That's got to be so confusing for anyone that's listening right now.
I
know. So Max's car is being driven through the city, and he like stops.
Driven by Master Blaster.
Yeah.
Or like they're sitting on the throne of it or something.
And he goes, which is cool too, because it's like, when did his car get stolen? Again, that's just like folklore. It's like, who knows? I would love to know why, but also like I kind of like how it's just mysterious.
Yeah.
And then
before that though, remember that they had his car in Underworld and they were trying to like start it, and you notice that his car was rigged like in Road Warrior, that if you started it or tried taking anything out of it, it would explode.
Right.
So that's when Max was like, you have to do this. And they forced him to like take the bombs and all of the dangerous stuff out of his car so that they could drive it.
Yeah.
Which is just more cool world building.
Yeah. And then finally, he challenges him. He goes to the Thunderdome. Tina Turner flies in like on a zip line.
So cool.
And then the guy who was selling the camels earlier does this whole speech, which is so great.
You should
where
just
he's
YouTube
like,
it. Well, I mean, watch the movie.
There used to be war, and now we settled it here. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. And I suppose you won't break any rules because there are no rules. Just as long as 2 men enter and 1 man leaves. And then you hear the crowd who's around this like it looks like a bigger one of those jungle gyms.
Yeah.
And it's real. That's the other cool thing. It's a real thing. It's very large, and there's probably like 50 to 100 people on it looking inside the Thunderdome, and they set up weapons in different areas. And then they proceed to fight.
You know what's cool about this whole concept? And I can't think of other examples, but I feel like it's kind of a common thread in dystopian things, where it is so dystopian future, which means there's like no more entertainment because we're a broken society. Yeah. And as the world starts rebuilding, it's like we have to go back through like Roman Empire stuff and like have people fighting to the death again, like going through these things. Because I just feel like that's you kind of see that it's a common thread and things like that. Or even like in Hunger Games, they're like basically fighting to the death, and part of that is for entertainment purposes. Yeah, for people. And I think that's interesting. Yeah, it'll never not be interesting, I think.
Yeah, it truly always is. So then they fight. It's a really great action sequence. They have like rubber, like trapeze
acrobatic
things that are hanging from the top, so they can do flips and jump around. The fight, I mean, we can't really describe the fight, but it's really
weapons
cool.
are hung up all around the dome that they have to jump up and try and grab.
And there's a chainsaw. that Max gets, and there's a knife, and so they fight, and basically the end of the fight, he knocks off the helmet, he sees that it's a kid, and he turns...
Not only that, a disabled child.
Yeah, he looks like mentally handicapped.
Yeah.
And then he turns to Tina Turner. Turner.
Okay.
And he says, like, this wasn't part of the deal. And then Master of the famed Master Blaster says, what deal? What are you talking about? And then it's kind of exposed, which then leads to Tina Turner saying, hey, we made a deal, and any man who breaks a deal faces the wheel.
And she also kills the kid.
That's right. Someone shoots an arrow at him.
But then it's like there's still two men in the thing. Because two men enter, one man leaves. But the other guy came... Do you know, like, the master came into the dome.
Yeah, that's right.
And Mel's trying to get out, but they won't let him out.
Yeah.
Because there's two men in there now.
But then he broke a deal, so he's got to face the wheel.
Yeah.
So they face the wheel.
Gets the gulag.
He spins it, and it gets the gulag. And they put him on a horse. They
backwards.
Backwards with a large head...
Like a paper mache head.
Which is kind of freaky looking.
Yeah.
A tiny vial of water.
That is hung in front of the horse.
And then they smack the horse's butt, and the horse takes off.
And then they proceed to do one of the most insane effects, or whatever it is, I've ever seen, when the horse collapses from heat and dehydration, which alone looked too real on the horse's part.
Yeah.
Horse might be getting MVP for me. And then... the horse, so Max is still on the back of the horse, or he falls off at that point. No, he falls off. The horse slides down into quicksand.
Yeah.
But it looks like they actually put a horse into quicksand.
Yeah.
At
well,
no
the horse
point,
is dead at that point, so I'm sure they did a fake
But the
horse.
fake horse looked real.
It looked
really
like
it looked like they bought a dead horse and they put it in quicksand.
I mean, the way the series has been, I wouldn't put it past them
it
that
just
they bought
looks
a dead
so
horse.
cool.
Yeah. And then this girl finds Max.
Hold on. How far into the movie are we at this point? Is this halfway?
Yeah.
How long is this movie?
I don't know.
Like an hour 45?
Sure.
Just think about how much we've talked about. Like, how much has happened.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're going to do a complete 180 switch on where this movie's headed.
Yeah.
Which I think is an interesting thing that the movie does, but also it's kind of hard to get to, like... It's a hard thing to ask of the audience a little bit. Mm-hmm. Because it's almost like you have a beginning, middle, and end of the first two acts. And then you have this new thing that's happening, and you have to learn about a completely new world, about where he's being taken.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I thought we already did this. Mm-hmm. So that it's still interesting, and a very interesting tribe that he gets taken to and all this stuff. And the story's really cool, but it's also like, it makes the movie feel longer.
Definitely.
So it feels like another movie starts.
Definitely. Yeah. So then he's found by these children.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, I think it even got criticized.
Looks like the Lost
for this.
Boys from Peter Pan.
Right. I was about to say,
okay.
I think it even got criticized for being a ripoff of the Lost Boys. I think it's unique enough.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of cool that there's children surviving out by this pool of water.
Like a little oasis.
Yeah, oasis. That's the word. And they are really excited about Max.
Yeah.
Because they think that he is Captain Walker. Because they were all on a plane. We learned through this...
So the kids were on a plane?
I thought so, weren't they?
I thought a plane had crashed near them.
That makes more sense.
It makes more sense just because I don't think they would survive.
Yeah, that makes way more sense.
But proceed.
Yeah, okay. So, and this gets into the idea that Terry Hayes was talking about, where it's like, these children are living in this area. They have one of those old picture flipping toys, if you remember, listener, where you hold it up to your face and you insert the picture into the top of it. It's like a circle cartridge.
Yeah.
And you click it and it shows different pictures.
Yeah.
So then they proceed to, like a religious relic, create this story about how Captain Walker,
Marvel? Is that what you were
I was
going to
say Morgan.
Oh.
And then
Who's Captain Morgan? Wait, from the alcohol?
Yeah, with the foot up.
Yeah.
how he came down, and they have like these drawings on the wall because they're explaining this to Max after they kind of bring him back to health.
Yeah.
And then they
finally
talk
cut
about,
off his disgusting hair.
I liked the hair. I liked
gross.
the hair. They talk about the plane coming down, and then how Captain Morgan is going to come back. Walker is going to come back and fly the plane because the plane is still kind of like partially buried out in the sand.
Yeah.
And Max is just kind of sitting there listening to all this, and I love all of this. By the way.
It's interesting.
It's cool. And they're doing it in this strange way that seems like kids around a campfire.
Yeah.
Telling stories, and then he proceeds to tell them, "I'm not that guy. You guys should stay here because the closest town you're going to get to is Bartertown, and it's a hellhole, and you guys wouldn't last a day over there."
But then they like
you anywhere.
Continue further, like trying to convince him,
Mm-hmm.
and then he does such a great thing where he just gets up and starts walking away. Like they put the pilot hat on him, like they're crowning him, like you're back.
Yeah.
And then he immediately stands up, takes off the hat, starts walking away.
Uh-huh.
And it's a lot cooler if you watch it,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just like that is such a Max thing to do.
Yeah.
He said he's not him, but he only says it in like a handful of words, and then he's gone.
Yeah.
And then I mean they convince, like they bring him back, but like it's just so great.
Well, and I love the idea of like a culture. I mean, because this is kind of like what if you look at Judaism and Christianity. Mm-hmm. So Judaism had this idea of what the Messiah would be, and he would come and he would conquer. Like at the time when Jesus came, he would come and conquer the Romans, and then like Israel would be king.
Yeah.
And then Jesus comes and he's like, "I am that Messiah, but actually, I'm going to save everyone, but in a very different way than you thought."
Yeah.
And this is quite a bit different, but it's cool how Mad Max is like, they're like, "Oh, you're the guy, you're going to get on this plane that's buried out in the desert, you're going to fly us to safety back to all these cities and stuff, and these like utopias that we've been dreaming about." And he goes, not in the altruistic way that Christ does. I'm not bringing that comparison full. But he also is like, no, but he winds up helping them, and he does actually set them free, but in a different way than than what their preconceived notions were.
Yes.
And that Messiah figure coming and saving someone, but in a different way than they anticipated.
Yeah.
Is always kind of an interesting idea to play with.
Yeah.
And that's very cool.
It's like one of those things where you think you have it figured out, mm-hmm. and you don't, and then it kind of comes down to like you just have to have faith in that thing that you believe will help you.
Yeah.
And because of their belief in him, I mean, like it's kind of like a typical Max thing. He doesn't want to help them.
Yeah.
But he does end up doing it mostly because it's like, well, I can't just let them die.
Right.
But then they have to put their faith in him.
Right.
Regardless of where that takes them.
Yeah.
So then it gets to like finally the action scene. I mean, well, Thunderdome's action, but I mean like car action scene.
Well, we're not quite there yet.
Oh.
Because remember, then he leaves the oasis because the girl tries to go away, and she's like, "You know what? If you're not going to do it, I'm going to go to that town." And he's like, Don't. And then finally they leave in the middle of the night, and Max is alerted to it.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, "Okay, we got to go get him." So they start going out. Some of the kids fall in that sand pit. Mm-hmm. Then they finally make it to Bartertown. All the while, I will say, like you were actually saying, you actually explained why I was having a little more trouble with the second half was because you're introduced and you're like, it's like a second movie you're watching.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. So now I know why. Like the movie really feels like it starts stalling after she tells the story about Captain Walker.
Because it's like, okay, so if he's going to say no to this, what's going to happen?
Yeah, so there is a lull there. But then they finally get to Bartertown. They break everything up, and that guy, the pig killer from earlier, gets in summing a lot of this up, gets into a train car, and they take off down these train tracks powered by the methane. And then Tina Turner and her gang start chasing them.
Right.
And the kids have mercy on Master.
Yep.
And because he is now being mistreated because Blaster was killed.
Yes.
And so I really like, I guess we didn't talk about this
that whole
enough,
scene.
but I think it's really cool and good writing where you have Master Blaster who really is presented as a really bad dude.
Uh-huh.
And Tina Turner is presented as this really good person. And then after Blaster is killed, you see her just take advantage of that situation like a dictator.
Yeah.
And just throw Master in prison like he was helping the city. And then it kind of turns on its head to where you're like, well, Tina Turner was actually kind of the bad guy.
And don't you think she's like kind of motivated by fear as well as by
I think
power?
I think she's afraid she'll lose the power. Yeah. And he's already lost the power, so now he's just afraid of his life.
Her saying that this is her time now, she's probably afraid of that time ending.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. That's it, guys. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, that power structure stuff is really interesting. And it really does come across. I think if you watch the movie with that in mind, it's not like, sometimes when you read about, man, there's a lawnmower going on. Just imagine we're still on the Mad Max road, so it's a car driving,
Yeah.
It's just a sound effect we put in the podcast. But what was I saying? Like sometimes when you read about a movie that is like an adventure story or something, and then a writer says, well, we really wanted to capture this about this. We wanted to explore capitalism. And you watch the movie and you're like, I guess? But this movie, when I read the things that Terry Hayes said about it and what George Miller said about the power structures and the Aboriginal tribes making mythology, it really does come across in this script.
Yes.
Whereas,
much.
like, even some of those movies in Marvel Phase 1, I can't remember exactly, but there's a couple of them where the writer said, we wanted to accomplish this about this hero, and you're like, yeah, I guess you did that. Yeah, I guess you did take that angle, but really, it feels more like it's just an action movie.
I feel like Thor is like the biggest example of that.
Yeah, because I feel like they were trying to do a lot of stuff, and then it kind of doesn't follow through on like the exploration of a god amongst humans.
Yeah.
It almost
more
does.
than anything, it's exploring Chris Hemsworth shirtless among humans.
Yeah,
that's just what it seems like.
Which I mean, I get. I mean, hem's got a hem, Oh,
gosh.
But anyway, so going past all that, they start driving. We have a great Mad Max drive sequence. Once again, can we describe it? No, you have to watch it. There's some
we can't
great
because
stunts.
we won't because you have to see it.
Yeah, no, but it really.
I wish it was 15 minutes longer.
Yeah, well, I wish it was 2 hours long.
Oh,
wait a second, that's the next movie.
Oh,
but they get to the end of their train track, and then they find Jedediah's.
I love the kid. I love
Jedediah's
that kid.
kid.
Yeah, he is so funny.
He's good.
He's so cute, especially that outfit.
Yeah,
that he has.
He's wearing like an old British exploring the African.
Oh my gosh,
continent
it's so
outfit.
cute, and he is so good at acting.
He's good. Yeah.
I also didn't see that kid. I was kind of just doing quick hunting, and he didn't pop up.
Yeah,
really.
I think the acting and the kid acting in this movie is pretty decent. There wasn't much that jumped out to me as bad.
No, I actually thought the kids were really good.
Yeah, which is
refreshing.
rare. Yeah, especially after watching Dumbo this week. Woof.
Pet Sematary.
Dumbo, more. I said woof, more like.
You know what they did in Pet Sematary that I always think is funny? So you have like an 8-year-old girl and a 2-year-old boy, like their brother and sister, and there's this thing that happens, and the daughter comes back, and the parents are just kind of like freaked out, and you have the 2-year-old boy, his soundbite is definitely way louder than it actually would be in post-production of this, and you don't see the kid's face, so he definitely didn't say it in that take, but he's like, what's the girl's name? I'm just gonna say like Samantha. I love you, Samantha. And it's like, really? I don't think you're saying that.
Yeah.
It's just whenever they do, it happens so much in movies. And it's like I know that like especially younger kids say things like that in times where like an adult probably wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
But that just like rips you out of the moment.
Child acting's really a hard thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I know from what I've heard, it seems like the people who get the best performances really focus a lot of attention on, and I don't know what they did with Pet Sematary, and I haven't seen Pet Sematary yet, but I know like with Elliot Thomas from E.T.
Oh, okay.
Arguably the best child performance ever. Like, it's up there. It's so good.
Yeah.
The other one would probably be Haley Joel Osment from Signs.
You also have Justin Tremblay, I think is his name, who's in the kid from Room,
I haven't seen Jacob Tremblay.
Believe has lived 1,000 lifetimes before this one, and that's the only way he understands how to act like the way he does.
Okay.
If reincarnation's real, that kid is a product of it.
But I know that like with like Steven Spielberg, he would sit down with
Elliot or
Henry Thomas,
yeah,
and they would just like really try and get into the motivations and spend time and act like kids and like really spend a lot of extra time. Yeah. And then another one like the movie 8th Grade, directed by Bo Burnham.
Yeah,
you know, he would sit down with the actress, I forget her name, and they would just like spend a lot of time. He would kind of show her the script, but let her add all of her likes and ums that an 8th grader would say.
Yeah.
Which is actually sort of infuriating that it's in the movie because it's so bad grammatically, but it's awesome because it's so natural.
That's how you and I were acted.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's really good. But yeah, you have to spend a lot of extra time with child actors to get really great performances. I don't know. Back to Mad Max. I don't know how much time they spent with the kids.
Yeah. I just wonder what they did. So, like, thinking about Mad Max, which is a group of kids, I wonder how they dealt with that. But also thinking about Stranger Things, which is kid-driven.
Yeah.
It, Chapter 1, which is kid-driven. How I think those kids are just very talented.
Yeah.
But, like, how did they spend time with them? The directors.
Yeah. That would be interesting to find out. Especially because TV shows have different directors usually.
Yeah.
So that makes it much more difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, something to think about. They get to Jedediah's lair. They get on a plane. The people are still chasing them. Mad Max gets in a car to distract them and leaves
because
the
they
kids.
can't take off because they're too heavy.
Yeah.
So Max gets off the plane, gets in the car. One of the coolest shots, car driving straight on into a car, and you see everything.
And
that stops everyone driving.
It disintegrates the car.
Yeah.
And then Mad Max, does he just drive away at the end of the movie?
No, he jumps out of that car before it collides with that car.
That's right.
And he really doesn't have a car because all of them are like the ones that there were a lot that were destroyed, and the ones that weren't destroyed, all of the Bartertown people drove away with.
Yeah.
Because Tina Turner gets out of her car, comes up to him, people like have guns pointed at him, and you're like, oh, why wouldn't she kill him? But didn't she say something like, it wasn't this exactly, but she's like, I like you, or something. Well,
she says something like, we're from the same breed.
Yeah,
or
that's
something
what it
like
is,
that.
yeah.
And then she just drives away and leaves him.
Yeah.
And then that's the end of Mad Max from 1985 until, what?
2000.
Nearly 30 years later.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Mad Max. I am ecstatic about Fury Road.
Yeah.
Because Fury Road is when George Miller says, I don't know if he actually thought this, but he says, what's the best part about Mad Max? And everyone says the stunts and the car chases specifically. And he goes, what if I took the two best sequences in the series, the car chase in Thunderdome and the car chase in Road Warrior, and I made an entire movie that. And not only that, instead of just doing a car chase for 2 hours, which can be boring, it's not going to be boring for 1 second of the movie. And it's going to be maybe the best movie of that year. Probably like at least top 50 best movies of this decade.
Yeah.
And kind of like revitalize action. Because I think there is like a before and after Mad Max. I think that movie has, which was funny because the original movie, and especially Road Warrior, had that impact as well, where it's like action movies before Mad Max, Fury, or Road Warrior, action movies after, and now you have action movies before Fury Road and after Fury Road.
Yeah.
And it's so awesome because I don't know, I can't think of anything off the top of my head where the fourth movie in the franchise is the best movie in the franchise. I can't think of anything like
one thing that makes it so much better too is this is the best story out of all four of them.
Yeah.
Further set in the future when women
so cool.
women are infertile and there are only 4 pregnant women left.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a Children of Men situation.
It's so cool.
Oh, it's so cool.
It is so cool. So rev your engines, folks, because we are going to dive into that road. And then what we need to remember, we need to talk about what you and I specifically, just us two, what we would want in a future movie in the franchise.
Okay.
But yeah, hope you stick around with us. Can't wait for this one. And we're almost done with our second series. Cue the music, Anthony, the outro music. I have no idea what it is.
Me neither.
The subscribe, comment, like, or whatever.
Share and just have fun.
Share it, though. Seriously.
Please.
Bye.